If not, we're going to move to the last presentation before the break, and we're going to talk about biohacking. Biohacking is a fascinating topic. It's linked to synthetic biology. We all know that a software is a Turing machine with 0 and 1 that you compile and that you run on a machine. And the biologists are basically saying life is exactly the same thing, and so they're going to hack the program, which is a strand of a DNA, and you can hack it, you can compile it, and that's how you can make glowing trees. And as you have hacker space, there are now biohacking space. Like in Paris, there is one called La Paillasse, and they're doing really weird, interesting things. So I'm excited to hear your presentation on biohacking.
By observing what's going on in my body. I've been interested in the intersection of the human and the machine, and this is work that I've been doing for the last 15 years. I'm authoring now a book called Biohackers Handbook, which is really diving into how you can operate different systems in your life, optimize performance. We are information. Information is primary. Information is everything. Information is in the biochemical between yourself and your body. It's in the signals in your nervous system. It's in your genes. What replicate forward that carries the code of life that creates all of this. And epigenetics, the environmental factors, how those are affecting you and also your genes as they're passed forward. And also your interactions, your language, your activity, behavior can be mined. Just like we mined oil. In 21st century, we will mine data. And computers will move from our desktops to our pockets, to our clothes, and then to our bodies. And we will merge with technology in very interesting ways. And that's definitely not a topic that's not under some controversy. Quantified self is this self-knowledge through numbers. How do you gain self-understanding through numbers? There's many ways how you can use today's technology to track and gather and harvest data. You can definitely use like very traditional means of just writing down and drawing blood values, but you can use today's sensors and wearables and all of that to dive deeper into that data. Biohacking, on the other hand, is the art and science of optimizing your body, mind, and performance with systems thinking, biology, and technology. What it means is that you look at yourself as a system. How does this system work? What are the inputs? What are the processes? What are the outputs? And how you can influence those things. That's what the work that I'm doing right now, Biohackers Handbook, with my co-authors, a medical doctor and a nutrition specialist. I'm a technology specialist. I'm very deep also on those other areas. We look at the human condition in a very holistic way. So how can you upgrade yourself to different systems in your life? Exercise, nutrition, sleep, mind, and work with biological and technological tools. There is a great thinker in management theory, it's Peter Drucker, who looked at organizations, and he said that what gets measured gets managed. But do we have the same kind of key performance indicators or data of ourselves, really, as we have of our organizations? And this is something that really strikingly was highlighted to me when I fall ill of a stress-related disease. And I didn't know what's going on, really. I didn't know how this black box operates. So I got deep into understanding what's really in there. Let's take the previous slide. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. Some of the self-tracking technologies that I've used on different areas to gather self-understanding, to gather and understand how this black box operates. And there is some mobile apps you can use, some extensions of the phone itself, and some independent devices you can use. So there's a lot of different things that we can use today. The biosensing wearables landscape, if you look at that, the most popular ones are based on simple movement trackers That's also what is in a heart rate monitor. That's also what is in sleep tracking. It's pretty simple technology, really. But in the long tail, you can have all kinds of cool technologies that you can use to harvest and gather information about the human condition. So just to give you some examples of how you would go through a typical day and how you would upgrade the different aspects of it. I just start from the morning and I walk you through the day in a sort of optimal scenario of how to bring technology in there. I can dive deep into specific areas, like I've sequenced my DNA just to understand how nutrition affects me. That's called nutrigenomics. How nutrition and genomics can be put together to create an optimal condition to you in terms of diet. But if we just think of sleep itself, sleep is essential for physical performance, for cognitive function, for any kind of things you do. And that's the ultimate biohack. If you don't sleep, you're not going to perform well. There's all kinds of tricks out there, but those are not going to work as effectively if you don't sleep. Now, we have been taught that 7 to 8 hours is optimal amount of sleep per night, but the question is what type of sleep? How much do you get deep sleep? How much do you get REM sleep? How long does it take for you to fall asleep? Do you wake up during the night? Do you have sleep apnea? All those things factor into the quality of sleep. So it's not just 7 or 8. Sometimes it can be 6, as long as it's very, very good sleep, a good night's sleep. Now, I have like a tracker under my bed sheet that is measuring and tracking my night's sleep. This is one of my key performance indicators as a manager. Every morning I see my stress level. So the systems are tracking my nervous system status during the night, and in the morning I will know what are the things that I should do today. So am I recovered really from a nervous system perspective? So should I do heavy exercise? Should I do a lot of work? Or can I just, maybe spend a little bit more time in recovery? So heart rate variability and tracking my nervous system is one of the most important things. But I'm getting this data out. And the question, of course, is now, what do I do with that data? And I'm a big fan of non-invasive and automated sort of ambient ways of gathering information that I don't have to pay attention to it. This is what I use most of my time into, is really to use technologies that don't really require my intervention. Like at the moment, I have a biometric shirt that is measuring my heart rate, my breathing rate, my activity, and I can go and see my day, how it has been today, for example, here at the conference. I can go back and I can see what things influenced my performance. If I turn that into real-time data, then I can use it as a mirror. It's sort of like a feedback loop through which I can become more conscious of that activity. So for example, how my heart rate, how my stress level influences a presentation like this. I've used feedback loops in such a way that I can honestly say today that stress management is a totally learnable skill. You can learn to control your nervous system by conscious thought. It doesn't really require anything else but just to pay attention what's going on in your body. Now, there is a lot of tools and technologies that enable you to dive deep into and track different aspects of your physical condition. And I'm a big fan of these specialized tools and devices like Webit and Enfit. Webit and Enfit are Finnish companies. I'm from Finland. And those are just the best sleep trackers. None of these kind of wristband things like the Apple Watch are going to get even close to in terms of accuracy and what you can do with those things. Now, in the morning when I wake up, first thing that I do is I check my sort of cardiac readiness for all kinds of things. So I have the data from the night, and when I wake up, I can look at my cardiac readiness for different types of exercise. And this is tens of years of research that has been used to optimize Olympic athletes, now applied to all of us. So I can just have an Olympic athlete trainer in my pocket that will, in the morning, tell me how I'm doing. Now then I can go, of course, my daily mundane things, and brushing your teeth even can be turned into a quantified self experiment where you can track, how you do that over time. Of course, I mean, when you go to the kitchen, a lot of people, they just have their morning coffee. My sleep tracker is measuring when I'm coming out of the deep sleep, and I'm almost about to wake up, and it's going to turn on the coffee machine. Also, it's going to prepare my breakfast. So in the moment when I walk into the kitchen, it's going to be ready. Cup of coffee, nice eggs, done in 68 degrees for 1 hour, just perfect al dente for me in the morning. Now, all of these things can be then combined and tracked. And when I move out, I mean, I can just, put my coffee in a cup, and it's going to measure how much caffeine is in there. It's going to synchronize that to the cloud as well. Now, commuting, moving to my office. Here's data from 1 year of my activity in Helsinki. You can see where I live. You can see where my office is. And you can see that I usually take a bicycle instead of walking or any other forms of transportation. And there is a favorite route that I'm taking. And this kind of data tells me something about my commute and has also challenged me that, hey, maybe I should take some other routes to work than what I usually do. Like I mentioned, I like to take the bicycle, and with the bicycle as well, you can have a smart bicycle, easily upgraded. You just have this device that is tracking your activity, knows where you're going. It's going to light up the direction where you should turn, and it's going to gather data on your cycle. If you are late from the work, you can signal your friends or colleagues, and they will be able to follow you on the map when you're exactly on minute going to arrive at the office. Often the nervousness of, when is that guy going to arrive and all of that just disappears if we have transparency in our communication. Now, when I get to work, one of the things that I do, I use a standing desk. I'm not sitting down. Sitting is the tobacco of my generation. I rather stand. Also, it's not putting pressure on my prostate, so I reduce my risk for prostate cancer by standing or just using a special chair like that. And posture, people are like this all the time. I have a tracker here that is tracking my posture. And when I go slump like this, it's going to vibrate, and I'm just going to correct myself. And then it's going to tell me how many hours, like today, 4 hours, perfect posture. So these are very cool technologies, but what they really are, they are ways of gaining perspective and having faster feedback loops into what you are doing. So in this case, of course, I can observe my posture, but I often forget it. But with this device, it's reminding me of it, and I'm programming new software into my nervous system. We are really robots. Every morning we like to do the same things. We are automating ourselves. That's what the human brain is really good at doing. But to learn new things, that's challenging. That is very challenging, and this is what I use the technology for. I'm hacking my nervous system. Now, if I have a break, for example, I like to stimulate my lymphatic system, so that because macro moves micro. There's many processes in the body that don't function without you moving your body. And one of the most effective ways is to use a trampoline or a vibration plate that basically vibrates in 1 minute the equal amount of 20 minutes of walking. So I can just have 1 minute break and get the equal stimulus to my physical body in 1 minute than I would get for 20 minutes of walking. From exercise perspective, I just canceled my gym card. It's totally useless because the science says that you can get the same benefits in 7 minutes, and that's high-intensity interval training. I also sequenced my genome to understand my muscle types and all of that. I just know that high-intensity interval training is just perfect for me compared to many other forms of exercise. Now, if I would be scheduling meetings, I'm no longer touching my phone even. I'm doing it from my watch. The watch knows from my phone when I'm available. I just get notifications to my watch, and I just accept or decline those meetings, and then those are on the cloud. Swipe to me, that's a very cool little tool you want to try out. For lunch, I use a very scientific approach. I'm using this kind of sous vide technique. In a vacuum bag, I'm bringing up the temperature of the water to a specific degree, which I want the meat or the vegetables to be from the inside, and it's not getting exposed to air, oxygen. So I avoid oxygenation and oxidization of what I'm eating, and in that way I get just the perfect type of food that I want. If this is too hard, sometimes, when I travel, I have this thing called Amber Night, which has all nutritional needs for the day in one drink. It's based on organic ingredients, like 25 or something of them, and it just, fulfills my daily nutritional goals in one go. Now, when I leave work, everything that I do on my free time can be nowadays tracked and measured and put into tests. And you can improve all kinds of processes from playing tennis to soccer and so on. So there's a tracker that can be put into just about anything. You can track exercise. Like I mentioned, I have a biometric shirt that is measuring my body and what's going on. You can measure different muscle types and correct indifferences there in your physiology as well. And you can even quantify your family. Whole family can have a tracker put on them, and you can just see who is walking most and drinking most coffee and taking most medication. All of that can be just put in an app, and you can make it social if you like. Now, the whole point of this is that there is a tracker for just about everything, and you can gather data. But the question is, what can you use the data for? What's the real purpose of that data? And that's where the analysis is really important. That's where the feedback loops are extremely important. If any of this stuff is interesting, I'm organizing Biohacker Summits, about 1,000 people in Finland, in Helsinki, side event to Slush in November, Biohacker Summit. Check it out. And if you're interested in anything that I'm saying, go deep into it. Biohacking book, we have the sleep chapter available. So check it out, biohackingbook.com. It's free download. And my name is Teemu Arina. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any question on how to hack your life? Or we take a sugar break?
Yeah, that was a very sort of technical description of all these tools and technologies. But for me, you don't need for biohacking any of these tools and technologies. I mean, think of martial artists, or people who have done long-term meditation, or different systems of nutrition, from Chinese medicine to Indian Ayurvedic medicine to shamanic practices all around the world. All of those are gaining understanding on the human condition and how to live a good life. And I think this is a modern approach to it. So how do you live a good life? And it's about the systems thinking and using latest science. And you can use trackers that can definitely speed up things, but technology is not required. You are the technology. This is the technology you should be using. Well, there is one.
So you say everything is measured. Are you feeling better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm waking up every morning as the best version of myself. It's dramatic, the change. And the thing about behavior change is that, I mean, we go on with our lives. We sort of fear changing, trying new diets. What if I damage myself, you might think. And, but once you have been doing it for a while, and it is producing the positive neurotransmitters, dopamine and so on, after that, you just realize that this is how I should be doing all the time, and the old me doesn't feel good anymore. So that's the problem with behavior change always. It's hard, but once you go through it, you look back and you're like, what was I thinking about? And yeah, definitely I feel good.
Yes. Question there, and then there. Go ahead.
Did you hear about Soylent, the mixture? Soylent.
Soylent, yeah. Soylent is, for everyone who doesn't know what Soylent is it is a little experiment by Rob Reinhardt, who is from Silicon Valley, sort of programmer type, and he started looking, food and eating as, lost time. You could be coding that time. So he started looking into what the human body needs, and he created this chemical cocktail, which looks like just like white liquid, and you drink it. And according to his reports, it will fulfill your daily nutritional goals. This kind of like space food has been tried to be developed for quite some time. And his product seems to work. I mean, it's a very good like lunch replacement. You save an hour and you get what you need. But I wouldn't go for it long term. There's studies with rodents that they gave exactly the same food in solid form and exactly the same food in liquid form to animals, and those animals who only got the liquid food form, same nutritional qualities, but different method of delivery, the liquid guys, I mean, they develop diabetes over time. So I think there is a reason why we have a digestive system and it takes time for things to digest. And having smoothies and Soylent and Ambronite and all that is great once in a while, but I wouldn't do it like every meal. I think I'm risking something from the evolutionary perspective right there.
Question there, and then I have a last one.
Kind of quite different question. You have so many data of yours recorded, visual and recorded. Do you afraid about the privacy? I know many people which are afraid of that, and they think that's the way how we are observed and managed and so on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm a living guinea pig for these things. But definitely this data can be used to track you. It can be to gain understanding of your patterns of behavior. Insurance companies would be extremely interested in all of this. I think in the future you will be getting cheaper insurance if you share your data. Definitely from the movement data alone, you can figure out if that person is a man or a woman, if that's pregnant or not, stays home or goes to work. All kinds of data can be harvested from there. But what I'm describing here is what's the real benefit to you personally. So think like 15, 20 years ago when people said, when mobile phones came along, I'm not going to have that, I don't want to be reachable all the time. And now every one of us has one, and choosing to have one, not to have one, means that you are making a lifestyle decision. I mean, I'm staying out from society in a way. I'm not reachable. And it sort of sounds crazy in a way nowadays. I think as we go forward, it might be crazy not to have a tracker on yourself. Just like it might sound crazy not to be vaccinated for the general population when you're born. All these things are very controversial things, and privacy is, I think it's a dimension of culture we live in. In Aboriginal societies, privacy, there was no privacy. I mean, you knew everyone else, and the worst thing that could happen to you is to be abandoned by the tribe. Today, we live great time of individuality, and we have personal lives. And now Facebook and all of these guys want to rip off, that freedom, and, make us connected again. So which one do you want to opt into? To be more connected or to be isolated and in your own private world? And this is just a philosophical question. I'm very worried. That's what I'm worried about this data. But I just want to highlight that there is different ways of looking at it.
Did you try to use that to hack your sleep patterns? Some people have tried to use technology and technique to reduce the amount of hours they are sleeping on the ground, that there is so much to do that, if I could only sleep 2 hours, 4 hours, not sleep at all. So did you look into that?
Yes, sleep is an anabolic state, so it's recovering you from the day, basically. It's removing all kinds of toxins from the body and the brain. The lymphic system, according to the latest understanding, extends to the brain, and one of the functions might be in sleep to really remove some of the toxic byproducts out of the brain. Definitely you can use biohacking to reduce the amount of sleep that you need to feel alert. People use coffee for that, but if you reduce generally low-level inflammation in your body, you will get along with less sleep. You will feel just fine. Your digestive system works much better with less sleep if you just keep your inflammation levels lower. Definitely your heart rate and those things are going to be increasing, and it can increase all kinds of problems over time. But definitely you can get away with by sleeping little and using some biohacking techniques, some nutritional interventions just to get by. And there is new science also that catch-up sleep actually works. It really reverses some of the effects to blood sugar control and so on very, very rapidly. But I wouldn't play with that. I mean, I would probably want to live according to natural cycles. And that's what I aim for. That's what I use all this hacking for, that I can have more time to sleep. This is like my personal chore also. I guess my personal tragedy as a serial entrepreneur, that's very little hours. I mean, how can I, find the 20% that results in 80% of what I do so I can sleep more?
Excellent. Wonderful. Let's have a break, and then we'll start the last session on investment opportunities.
Great. Thank you.
We'll come back. It's 4:20. We'll come back at 4:45. Very cool. Thanks. Enjoy.